Hi everybody, my name is Leo Bridgewater from Trenton, New Jersey. I'm a veteran activist and co-founder of the New Jersey Cannabis Commission. I'm also the National Director for Veterans Outreach with Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I'd like to thank Roots of Us LLC for coming out to Trenton, to my home, to sit down and have a good conversation about what it means with cannabis legalization here in New Jersey. Um, I'm 43 years old. I was born and raised right here in the capital city of New Jersey, of Trenton. Um, my former occupation was actually a DoD telecommunications specialist. I dealt with microwave and satellite comms for the Department of Defense and United States Army. I completed multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan as both a soldier and a contractor. And now I am a full-time veteran activist and also a budding entrepreneur within the cannabis space here in New Jersey.
Okay.
I am actually one of the 3 veterans who testified in Senate committee to have post-traumatic stress disorder added to the New Jersey medical marijuana program. And September of 2017, Governor Chris Christie signed our bill into law. And so now, being that, New Jersey is moving into the adult use side of things, as an activist, I think it's also a responsibility to also evolve into the business side of things, because there are some things in terms of the cannabis industry as a whole that need some fixing, particularly when it comes to black and brown people and women in ownership. I do feel as though I play a role in the community when it comes to bringing awareness to this issue. Communities of color are largely suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder over the illegality of the plant. So never forget that PTSD is not just a veteran thing. There is a thing called inner city acquired PTSD. And so when you look at those things, and you look at the symptoms of untreated PTSD, particularly when it comes within the urban settings like here in Trenton, New Jersey, it helped explain a lot of things when it comes to some of the people we know and also ourselves, like the risky behaviors, hypersensitivity to constructive criticism, our inability to grasp proper conflict resolution. All those things are actual symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Was I ever a victim of police discrimination over cannabis? No, I've never experienced discrimination over cannabis from police, but New Jersey has a police culture issue. And so when it comes to cannabis, that's just a tool of that police culture issue. The ACLU here in New Jersey released a report last year citing that New Jersey locks up about 25,000 people a year for cannabis, and well over 2/3 of those people look like me. And so that's not because of cannabis, that's more of a symptom of the police culture issue that we have here in this state. There are some counties in the state where I am 4 to 5 times more likely to be arrested and or pulled over for cannabis, just because I'm black. Whereas when you look at black people and white people here in New Jersey, we consume cannabis at the same rate. And so, again, when you look at the way this industry has treated people who look like me and women, and you look at the police culture issue we have here in New Jersey, it's the perfect storm. When I enrolled in the New Jersey medical marijuana program, post-traumatic stress disorder was not a qualifying condition. And so I was able to enroll into the New Jersey medical marijuana because of my knees. I've had a couple of knee surgeries, from my time in service. And so those were the conditions in which I was able to enroll in the New Jersey medical marijuana program. What got me going with that is finding out that post-traumatic stress disorder was not one of the qualifying conditions in the New Jersey medical marijuana program. And mind you, I'm coming off of having a number of battle buddies attempt suicide, and a few of them were actually successful. And so, not, recognizing that, what if they had access to this? Maybe they might still be here. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, the cure, but the mere fact that their quality of life could have been a lot better had they had access to this plant. I'm not built that. I'm not wired to just sit idly by and just allow that to continue to happen. When we're at 22 veteran suicides a day, and it's 5 a week here in New Jersey, and that number's real. Before I went into the military, my view about cannabis before I went into the military, while I was in the military, and after I got out of the military was exactly the same, which is I was a very, very, very selfish cannabis consumer. I only thought about myself. It wasn't until I actually enrolled in the New Jersey medical marijuana program and actually took on a part-time job trimming at Bridgewater Alternative Treatment Center in Robbinsville, here in New Jersey. And when you're trimming, you're sitting amongst other people who are trimming, and most of them are actually patients. And so you get to hear what life is like for a person with Crohn's disease. You get to hear what life is like for someone who's recovering from cancer, chemotherapy. You get to hear, what it's like when someone's dealing with IBS, and what ends up happening is like you go from being a man who used to complain about not having shoes to you meet a man who didn't have feet. And it changes your entire perspective in terms of, I'm changing your perspective is the wrong term. It broadens, your perception of the plant and your involvement with it. Cannabis has helped me go from suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder to actually living with post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm able to remain functional. I can feel things. I'm able to communicate with my spouse about, how my feelings, and it also makes me much more receptive to the new ways in which I can control my post-traumatic stress disorder. And also it's enlightened me to a number of different platforms in which I can use to properly medicate when it comes to this plant. Well, I believe that all cannabis consumption is actually medicinal. If you were to actually really talk with people who recreationally use, and we don't like to use the term recreational, we tend to use the term adult use. When you say recreational, you can invoke children, and no one recreationally drinks. That's an adult drink. So this isn't, we're talking about adults. And so when you go beyond the question of, do you consume cannabis for, recreational purposes or medicinal, if you go beyond that and you ask them the when, the why, the how, they actually sound like patients. So we have a huge population who are actually medicating and don't even know it. And that's a big problem here in New Jersey. Education, education, education is the biggest thing, and that's where they messed up at in Colorado and in places like Colorado and California, because they just rolled out the industry without actually educating the people. And so we're looking to sort of kind of reverse that here in New Jersey. Education is key. Wow. In the next 5 years, we'll be talking STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, math. We'll be talking global import, export, interstate commerce. A lot of, the research we have, we have some of the finest higher institutions of learning right here in the state. And so everything that you think is a problem is actually an opportunity. And to be honest with you, in 5 years, we'll be laughing at ourselves today, and the things that we've said and done, but what we will have moved on to, seriously, is actually hemp production and manufacturing. And so that's creating a whole nother industry in which we can, economically, change the course of the way the state is going and actually do some real good. There's a reason why the sign on the bridge says Trenton makes and the world takes. Well, we're about to fire up these factories. I think we need to flood the urban community with as many dispensaries as possible. I think that I think we should have more dispensaries than we do liquor stores, because you do more damage to your body by taking a sip of wine than I do by consuming cannabis. At least there's medicinal value to it. There's a medicinal benefit to it. We see how, people with multiple sclerosis, kids with Dravet syndrome, the severe seizures. We see people who are coming off of chemotherapy. The fastest growing demographic of cannabis consumers are people over the age of 65. It's getting them off of those cocktails of pills that they have to take. So in 5 years, we're looking at seriously also reducing the number of opioid abuse and addiction incidences, much less, as we already see currently. We see more and more doctors are writing less and less scripts. And so let's not let the point elude us. When you talk cannabis legalization in New Jersey, you're messing with the bottom lines of a number of industries. Number one, the pharmaceutical industry. They've been operating in this state for generations. Number two, the alcohol industry. They've been operating in New Jersey for generations too. And number three, most importantly, the prison industrial complex. They've been thriving in this state, evidenced by the ACLU's report and the fact that we have a police culture problem. So there's a lot of people getting out of jail who shouldn't be in jail. There's automatic record expungement. These are all the things that we're fighting for. So in 5 years, I hope not to be fighting as much. I'm one of the named plaintiffs in the Jeff Sessions lawsuit, and during discovery, we found out that the Nixon administration purposely used cannabis as a Schedule I drug so that it could target black people and hippies. And so what we have found out is that in that time frame, when you look at the war on drugs and you look at how cannabis was packaged right up there with everything else in terms of the war on drugs, when you say these things, you also have to recognize that we're talking almost 40-something years of a failed policy. But the thing is that it actually worked. It worked so well that in 2018, we have elected officials still saying gateway drug. They still think Cheech and Chong when they hear cannabis, despite the evidence saying otherwise. So there's this need to want to hold on to a very old idea. And the way it's being packaged and rebranded, it's looking to put people who look like me back into a box, and so, in 5 years, you also have more people coming out of the closet with their cannabis consumption. That was something made up by someone who doesn't consume cannabis. Only someone who does not consume cannabis would even think to say something like that. Not us. So I think that that's the way, it's evidence of how much education is required, how we have to evolve in a way that takes away that whole thought process. As a child, my mother used to have my sisters and I watch a television show called Eyes on the Prize. It's a documentary talking about the civil rights era. And I can remember seeing how the students who were going into Little Rock and the people, all the white folks that was on the side screaming and, telling them to go home and get out of here. They don't want to, integrate, no integration. Okay, well, this is our Eyes on the Prize moment. And we're the ones that are walking into, the school. And all those folks who are saying the Harry Aslinger, gateway drug theory, who subscribe to all of that, again, these are remnants of a time long past, and also evidence that, people are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder over the illegality of the plant. And when you think about the illegality of the plant, it's killed people, it's thrown a lot of people in jails, it's ruined homes, it's broken up families, all because of the way it was packaged. And we're talking about something that has never killed anybody. Well, those who are on active duty, I would like for them to know that I am out here actually fighting for you. I know you can't say what you really want to say because you fall under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and it is against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's against that law to say things like that, and particularly when it comes to your commander in chief. And when you're in a uniform, you're not supposed to. There's a reason why you have the greatest military in the history of the planet, because there's a system that actually works. So just know, for my active duty folks, just know we're fighting for you, so that you can have this option should you decide to go this route once you get out. To all those veterans who are, on my side, on this side, who are no longer active, what I would say to you is that 22 veteran suicides, we know it's a lot more than that. You know it. You know that when it comes to this cannabis legalization and the war on drugs, the first community that this thing plays out on is my community, people who look like me, Americans, those whom you swore an oath to protect and serve. Regardless of how you may think of them, at the end of the day, they're still Americans. And right now, being that we have a quality of leadership issue, when you look at the current racial and political climate of this country, the general population tends to lean more towards the word of a veteran before a politician. And so I think that if veterans have been leading the way in terms of when we make up less than 1% of the total population, but we do 100% of all the fighting, in this arena here, it's time for us to step up, come out of the closet, and take our rightful place as citizen leaders. It normally all right, so within in a month's time frame, it takes me a month to get rid of an ounce of cannabis, no matter what the form is. Depending on what I'm doing. So as a regular cannabis consumer, I'm not looking to see how high I can get. I'm looking to see what high I can get. And this is the benefit of being able to go into a dispensary and actually talk to a bud tender, because you get to ask the questions, you get to talk about what your symptoms are. So if I'm trying to get some work done and I'm really trying to focus on something, I use a strain called Cannatonic. It's very high in CBD and low in THC, but it allows me to relax, but I can continue working. It's the thing they give the kids with epilepsy. What it does for people who don't have epilepsy is just focus you like no other. So if you had to cram for a weekend of studying, I would suggest you use Cannatonic. When my knees are bothering me, such as they are now, I use a strain called Gorilla Glue. I actually love Gorilla Glue. It's my favorite. But it helps me it helps me sleep. I actually use Gorilla Glue too when I am having dreams. You know, because a lot of times my wife and my son will bleed into my dreams as if I was in a firefight and they're in it too. So my dreams can get pretty scary and violent. There's also a strain called Jack Herer. Uh, Jack Herer is if I want to watch a good movie and enjoy it, because Jack Herer will make you notice things you didn't see in a movie you've seen 100 times. If you consume some Jack Herer and then watch the movie Friday, you'd find something new. I just realized Craig's girlfriend had a dude laying in the bed with her when she was telling him off. All these years, I didn't notice. So, Jack Hare, White OG Kush, White Kanye West. I like Super Silver Haze. There's a reason why Super Silver Haze won a lot of cannabis cups in Amsterdam. Lemon Haze, AK-47. That's just like when you're just being regular, you know. If I really wanted to treat myself to something, then I would go with, White OG Kush. That would be the thing I treat myself with, you know. Yeah, those are some good strains. Well, I'd like to, again, thank Roots of Us LLC for coming out to come to my home and sit down and talk with us. As you can see, I mean, there's not people coming in and out of here trying to steal things or selling things. But I do want folks to realize that it's time for us to come out of the closet. We're regular people, us cannabis consumers. As you can see, folks have this thinking about us that simply isn't true. You used to be able to say this, but not anymore. You probably know more people who do consume cannabis than don't. And so, that being said, I would like for you all to get in touch with your elected officials, make the phone calls. I'm at the point now where, I've noticed that my conversation has changed. It's evolved a bit, how many more ways do you need to hear what you already know? You need a new number. Do you want me to have a therapy session right here and talk about what happened to me and my friends? Or do you need to know what to do next? And I think right now it's marching order time. It's time for us to start moving. President Obama said it best. We are the ones we've been waiting on. And when you look at the way this country is going, truth be told, I think everybody needs to smoke a joint, just to calm down. I think all of us are suffering from PTSD. There is a thing called direct and indirect PTSD. Direct means something happened to me. Indirect meaning I saw something happen to somebody. And when you look at, the news every day, that's indirect PTSD. When you look at what's happening with these school shootings, that's PTSD. That's direct and indirect. So now you got a bunch of kids who are screaming, and it's post-traumatic stress disorder is running real rampant when children who have been shot up and get upset and tell the adults that they want to feel safe, and the adults attack the kids because they want to keep their guns. See, something's a little messed up. I don't hear anyone complaining that every day, no matter what time, you're guaranteed to see at least 2 to 3, pill popping commercials that tell you life is so much better once you pop a pill. We have a very serious problem. And so, the time for the oxymoronic politics is over. And so all to all all the viewers within range of my voice and all the veterans, start off with calling your elected officials. Tell them that you want them to support Cory Booker's Marijuana Justice Reform Act here in New Jersey. Reed Gussiar is author of the Bill 1348, which is the adult use bill. We want you want minority inclusion to be very rampant. We are actually a state that's going to legislatively legalize cannabis versus this being some sort of a ballot referendum. And there's only one other state in the history of this country who's actually, legislatively legalized cannabis, and that's Vermont. So New Jersey is poised to be the second state to legislatively legalize cannabis, and the industry has given New Jersey the unicorn designation because we actually can bring order to chaos. And we can only bring that order if you get yourselves re-engaged in the political process, re-engaged in talking to your elected officials, and also bring somebody with you who needs to hear what I'm saying to any of the community events that you'll find the New Jersey Cannabis Commission and Minorities for Medical Marijuana doing. And if you're interested in getting in this industry, do take the time to go to www.leaflaunch.com. That is our cannabis incubator and accelerator where we are building the pipeline for the talent in New Jersey to be able to engage in this industry in the way that should make it inclusive. Thanks for coming to my home.